for another edition of AM Rockland. We have with us on this Monday afternoon, it's July 28th at 4:14 p.m., Supervisor George Holman from the town of Clarkstown. How are you doing today, George?
Great, Tom. How are you guys doing? Good?
Yeah, not bad. It's a heat wave, so we're hunkering down. We're getting ready. I saw the orange and Rockland notification that came in before, so getting ready for some summer in the city days, a little bit longer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's, thankfully all three of our pools are open. We have our community centers open where people can go and cool off, and town hall. We'll likely be keeping town hall open so people could pop in if they want to cool off, if they have any issues. But
Hmm.
hopefully, we don't have any outages. The good thing is, Ardra Rockland has really done a lot of investment, which has really kind of taken place over the last number of years, where they're able to actually, with the circuits that they put in, have really been able to do a nice job when you do have outages or infrastructure issues, where they can literally flip a switch and they can isolate those outages to smaller areas. So, this time of year and this type of weather is a real burden on the system. Everybody's jacking their AC, and it's literally using a lot of electricity. But in the end, ONR has done a lot of infrastructure work, and one of the projects that they're doing, when I give my West Nyack update, they're doing the 705 line, which is actually in part to be able to address days like this.
Hmm.
That's a project that'll be done. They're literally putting an underground loop between their substation in West Nyack and the substation on the Nanuet Spring Valley border, and that will enable them to be able to shift power from one area to the next seamlessly, to be able to help when they have outages and emergency situations. So ONR's done a good job, and in terms of really trying to be a lot more resilient. And kudos to them. We should give them credit for what they have done.
Yeah, and I'm fascinated by grid technology. I do some work up north with a group that's trying to get a microgrid installed in West Point. And the amount of details, a lot of it's over my head, of course, but the amount of intricacy, it's down to the atoms, as far as the physics of being able to make these stations work the proper way. So kudos to those minds that are able to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Just wanted to get you on. Obviously, since the daycare center was shut down 2 weeks ago, I believe, and just for those of you that are listening, it was an illegal child care center in New City, where there were 60 or 70 some odd babies, toddlers, infants, in a basement with exposed wire and nails and everything, and people were dropping off their kids. It was an illegal daycare center. Clarkstown and Child Care Protective Services found out about this, and from what I understand, at least according to all reports, shut it down ASAP. And I believe two of the people that are allegedly a part of this setup they surrendered themselves to the authorities. And the charges are pending. So can you give us an update from there?
Sure, absolutely. So the incident took place. They opened up in the end of June. It appears to have been an existing daycare previously operating outside of the town of Clarkstown. They bought several pieces of property on Maple Avenue in New City, ironically, literally only about a quarter mile or less from town hall,
Hmm.
and even closer to the police department. Anyway, long story short, on July 7th, they we went in and executed a search warrant at 86 and 96 Maple Avenue, and we found a plethora of building code violations. There were 67 children that were in the two different buildings. There were 30 cribs that were in the basement of 96. It's a basement is not habitable space. And so, we obviously, we called in CPS, we reported it to the state. CPS worked with the town, and we shut them down, and they agreed not to operate. We then filed for a temporary restraining order the next day on July 8th, and we were before Judge Larry Schwartz on July 11th, and he granted our temporary restraining order. And so they've been enjoined not to operate. And, at that location that they had to cure all their violations. They could actually have 31 people in the building, and they had 67 children and 20 or 21 adult. I'm sorry, 69 children and 20 or 21 adults. So roughly, they had 3 times the capacity. And in addition to that, they had a whole ton of, it was like 32 or 35 various building and fire code violations. So
have you ever seen anything like this?
no. This was pretty egregious. And what's interesting? They actually did a pretty good job on the main building in terms of the work, but they were just, based upon the occupancy of the building, they could have had 20 kids in daycare.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, long story short, they were far exceeding that. So we referred it to the Clarkstown Police, the juvenile, the detectives in the juvenile bureau took up the case. They did a very thorough investigation. Early last week, I was informed by the police chief that the investigation was rounding into form, and that they anticipated that there likely would be charges. I was then notified that charges were being issued, and the detective swore out the charges. There were a couple of charges of 2 charges of child endangerment for Aaron Altman and Hani Altman,
Mm-hmm.
husband and wife team that are running this daycare. So they were issued child endangerment charges. They surrendered themselves late on Thursday evening, I think around 9 o'clock at night. They went to the Clarkstown Police Department. They were processed, fingerprinted, mugshots, and they were released. And there's now an appearance ticket. I think a court appearance will take place on August 11th or thereabouts, 11th or 12th. The investigation was able to determine that they had ample evidence that demonstrated that not only was there information and belief that there were infants in those cribs and toddlers in those cribs in the basement, but they were able to get enough evidence, which included video of people coming and going to the basement, and additional information, which I'm not really at liberty to get into, but
Right.
to compromise the criminal investigation. But the police were confident where they were able to issue child endangerment charges for the operators, both of the owners and operators of the daycare. They are currently not operating here in this location. We don't believe they're operating in the town. I don't know if they're operating outside of the town, where they had been previous to here. That's not within our purview.
Right.
But this will be adjudicated through the courts, and we'll see what takes place with that. Good news is that it's been shut down, and so not only we have the civil case now. Those charges were filed in justice court, and that's for the building and zoning code violations, and those come with fines and what have you. And that'll be scheduled and adjudicated in justice court, prosecuted by the town attorney. And then the criminal charges would be reviewed and prosecuted by the district attorney. Again, they're child endangerment or misdemeanor charges. In New York State, child endangerment is a Class A misdemeanor, not a felony. People are surprised by that, but that's what it is in New York State, and that's what the police department is comfortable charging. Both of the operators of the daycare, and that's where that sits. I want to thank the county Child Protective Services, the Clarkstown Police Department, our code enforcement officers, our building and fire inspectors. A lot of levels of government working on this. The Office of Children and Family Services sent their people down. So this is where it all sits, and over the next couple of weeks, the next month or so, we'll have more clarity as to where these cases are going. It's highly unusual, but given how egregious this situation was, I mean, they had infants in cribs, in basically pack and plays
Yeah.
in a basement where there were literally one way in, one way out, down a flight of stairs. They had no electricity in the basement. They were running extension cords from outside. Literally they were endangering children, and we have evidence to believe that there were, at least on the one day where we were able to document, they were only operating for about a week, but at least on one day that we have video and photographic evidence of a handful of children in those cribs for a period of time for
Mhm.
several hours down in the basement.
The parents of the children, is there any word if they were aware of what was happening? I can't speak to whether they were investigating the facility itself, but did they have any idea that they weren't getting proper care of the kids that they were leaving there?
So, it's interesting. You know, the parents seem genuinely shocked, several of them, and honestly, it was kind of clear that a number of people at the daycare were saying, a number of things about, hey, this is not right. These people are good people, what have you. We heard an awful lot of that, and there were even some people that were saying that they felt that the owners were being targeted because of their religion. It had nothing to do with that. You can't operate in such a way. So I think a lot of parents were pretty, were pretty, locked in that, hey, this was okay, and I don't think they were aware of the basement. I think it's pretty clear that when a number of families became aware that the kids actually were in the basement, first of all, not all of the kids that were going to the daycare were taking naps. I mean, so you had infants, who were part of the grouping, and you had very young toddlers, and we had a sleep schedule. There was actually a roster with 80 kids, and what we've learned from the investigation is that they were charging about $1,500 a month per child. It
Man,
was, literally about $120,000 a month in income based upon a roster of 80. And, so it's again, as somebody said, they were kind of running it more like a factory than a child care. Now, that being said, I think a lot of the parents are just assuming because the main building, it was pleasantly finished, and they had they had new apparatuses and things of that nature, but they were covered with like literally all types of building and fire code violations that, certainly to a trained inspector they would notice, but even a parent would notice. And I don't know how the parents didn't see some of these things,
hmm
like the extension cords running outside, through the play area where kids were going to play, or outside from one window, into another window, where they had additional air conditioners, plugged in. It just, totally inappropriate, and for anybody to be there, but let alone children. So again, I can't speak to what the parents knew. I can tell you that at least one or two of the parents reached out to my office and were irate after the fact when they learned that the children were in the basement. Uh,
hmm
they never ever disclosed to anybody, as far as we can tell, that they were using the basement. But it's clear that they had children in the basement, and there's ironclad evidence that demonstrates that.
Got it. Well, the investigation will continue. I imagine you'll be back on the show, and of course, you'll be coordinating with all the various representatives from each of the agencies. Hopefully, something like this does. We don't see something like this happening for a
Yeah,
long time to come. That's
yeah, agreed,
yeah.
agreed.
And you also have some good news. There's the West Nyack construction project. You mentioned that the timeline has been updated for opening up.
Yeah, so the project was supposed to be done sometime early next year. They're ahead of schedule. Looks like it'll be done in December, and we'll have a fuller update. But the road has been closed for about 5 weeks now, and it should open up next week. One of the things that they're doing, if you've been down there, really you're seeing a lot of progress, and within the next week to 2 weeks. So by the end of next week, by August 10th, we're going to see the base coat down from Western Highway to Source Funeral Home, and pretty much, from um, around Village Square up to just shy of Klein Avenue.
Hmm.
The culverts have both been installed. They're continuing to fill, the road in, and the road's actually going to be elevated in a portion by, upwards of 13 inches from basically just before our park up until Pete's Arena. So there's substantial work that's going to be done there, but lot of a lot of the work will, the base infrastructure work will be done, and then over the next number of months, through the end of August, September, October, and November, you'll see the finishing work with the new decorative lights and what have you. So the project's still, not only is it on budget, but we had a contingency that we haven't really tapped too much into. So frankly, technically, we'll be, right now, I think we're certainly going to be on budget, maybe under budget, and we're going to be ahead of schedule, and that's all good news. It's going to be a real shot in the arm to the businesses in West Nyack. It's adding close to 127 or 130 parking spots
Hmm.
all up and down the road, and a couple of new designated parking areas. There'll be a beautiful new green space and fountain, literally across to the shopping center where Lulu's and Pizzeria is.
Hmm.
And the fountain will be very similar, just on a smaller scale to what's in Kevin Landau Park, the new city. So it's really going to be beautiful new space. More importantly, part of the 705 line that I talked about went through here, so we were able to bury a lot of the utilities, basically from Village Square up to Klein Avenue. So that's benefit. So all those utility poles are basically gone,
Hmm.
and the infrastructure is underground. Not only is the roadway elevated, but a lot of new drainage has been put in. We've totally upgraded the drainage throughout, all up and down the street. So the residual flooding that's taken place behind that area at Phillips Lane off of Klein Avenue, that should be addressed with this project. The little bit of flooding that would take place since we did the Klein Avenue project on West Nyack Road and up near Western Highway will all be, corrected. So it's good news for us, and as I said, it's going to be on budget, maybe under budget, and it's definitely going to be ahead of schedule.
Hmm. And is that a trend that typically happens, me not being a municipal planner, is that a trend that typically happens with towns as they grow? Obviously we have new residents, more people in the county in general, where utility lines, things of that nature, they end up getting placed underground as is needed, depending upon location.
So no, that's something we actually had to push for, to be honest with you. I can
Okay.
tell you, we did this, the causeway over in New City. All the lines are underground there, and that's something that I pushed when I first became town supervisor. We had 2 out of 3 years where we had poles down and we had power outages that were going on for days, with thousands of people out of power,
Hmm.
and literally that wide open causeway with the wind, the utility lines acted like a sail. So we really pushed hard with Orange and Rockland, and they agreed to bury those lines at their cost, and that was expensive. That was like hundreds of thousands of
Yeah,
dollars to do that project.
easily.
So when they did the project, when they were doing the 705 line in West Nyack, we had a dovetail with our construction project. We actually delayed our project by almost a year to make sure that they dovetailed, and so at no cost to the town of Clarkstown, we were able to get the utilities buried from Klein Avenue. So and again, the 705 line, as I said, it's a major resiliency project for O&R. So that's an important project that's really going to make this entire grid in this area more resilient. I would like to see O&R do more of that. It is expensive, I know there's targeted areas, areas that we've had, habitual issues with utilities down and transformers. It's a painful process
Hmm.
to put the lines underground. But when that does occur, when you have projects like this, it's only going to improve the infrastructure overall. And then I will tell you, any new construction, that is a requirement. So new subdivisions, and this means new, like going back to the 1990s. Anything that's been built in the last 25 years in Clarkstown, basically, you have to have underground, fed wiring. So any of the new commercial, any of the new, new residential has to have underground utilities, that feed the area.
That's a
And
requirement. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a requirement. So, as time goes on, that will have an impact. But unfortunately, the vast majority of the town, everything's above ground. I wish more of it was underground. Like, give you a case in point, we're dealing with an issue right now over by Joanio, where we have Phillips Hill, Red Hill, and Little Tor, where there was a car accident and they took a pole out and destroyed the traffic light. And it's literally going to be about a $200,000 project
Jeez.
for the town to replace it. And unfortunately, most people don't have that type of coverage on their vehicle. It was a car accident, and which took the pole out, which caused the damage. And we're probably going to get a fraction of that, and we're going to be out of pocket on it. And there was a power outage there that lasted the better part of a day, because of for some of the residents. Most people, they were able to reroute with the circuits, but there's several people that were out of power right in the immediate area for the better part of a day. And if we didn't have all these utilities above line, it would definitely be something that would be better for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, the Germans Park Field Complex. Update
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah, so we're excited about that. That's a project that's moving along. It's going to be done in about 4 weeks. We were able to get close to $2 million in subsidies and grants for that. It's an overall $5 million project. We're creating a full multi-purpose field. That's turf field on the middle level, as well as a turf infield for softball and baseball, and that multi-purpose turf field will be lined for football, lacrosse, and soccer. It also will be lined for baseball.
Nice.
And then the upper level at Germans, we have a turf infield that's completed that we put in, and then as part of that complex, we did all three of the infields for the West Nyack Little League, which is town property, and the Little Leagues, basically use them. And it's great. It's a major project, LED lights, some drainage upgrades, an additional 90 parking spots up in that area. And the West Nyack Little League, actually, their complex itself, it rivals any complex in the entire state. I'm told it's one of the nicest, if not the nicest, based on these turf infields. And the West Nyack Little League is actually applying for the state tournament for the next 3 years. They'll know by October, but they've applied, and I think they have an excellent chance of getting it. They have three turf infields, and then the complex, the rest of the complex with the town fields, they could have as many as 6 turf infields. And why is that important when you think about these tournaments? When if they're able to secure the state tournament, they'll have upwards of 20 teams that will be coming in from all around the state. So the hotels in Rockland and in Clarkstown will have people that'll be looking to stay down in this neck of the woods.
Hmm.
The restaurants, as people are down there, and these tournaments last several days at a clip. And it's good, good for the local economy. In addition to that, as these people come and check out the area, many people will decide, hey, look at all the things that Clarkstown has to offer: great schools, great police department, turf fields, 3 pools, 4 community centers. The list goes on and on and on. You're this close to New York City. And that's certainly going to help with people getting the price for their house when they want to sell and new residents looking to move in. So
Hmm.
we're excited about it. This has been a labor of love. This project is start to finish will be done in 9 months, and really it's really rounding into form. We'll probably have a ribbon cutting sometime in the early fall, and the artificial turf fields will all be open and available, for use immediately, and really excited because we've had folks like the New City Rams and the Clarkstown lacrosse teams that haven't had a place to call home, and um, and so now there'll be a real opportunity for some of the local sports leagues to utilize some of the town facilities now, and then more importantly, just we're going to dramatically extend the playing season. It'll bring in more permit fees. So despite the cost, there'll be a revenue generator for our Parks and Recreation Department. The West Nyack Little League tells me, they got this entire season in with with the new turf fields, the turf infields. And I was just there late last week, and I was talking with a couple of directors from the Little League, and I couldn't believe this when they told me this, but they said that they had 89 more games that they played this year than in the past,
Wow.
and that's all because of the turf infields.
Hmm.
All the games, like literally, you can have a thunder shower, a heavy rainstorm, and it stops, and within 10 minutes, the end of the rainstorm, the field is playable.
Yeah, exactly. Going back about 10 years or so, one of the reasons why the concerts stopped over at Rockland Boulders, with then the Rockland Boulders, now called the New York Boulders, over at Clover Stadium, is every time you brought in a huge stage, it ripped up the field.
Right.
But, hopefully they'll do AstroTurf pretty soon.
Yeah.
I heard some word that that was happening at some point in the near future, would be great. But yeah, AstroTurf definitely makes a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a positive. We're excited. It's I'm really looking forward to people seeing this. I think they're going to be wowed by it. I mean, and as I said, you know um, this entire complex, will be artificial turf and artificial turf infields, and that was I think it's just going to be great in terms of the ability for the kids, and just the opportunity for more kids to get involved, and the opportunity for more games to be played. So if you so if you kind of put it in your books tentatively, by probably the middle of September, we'll have some type of ribbon cutting, but the project will basically be done within the next 3 to 4 weeks. They're really coming, kind of to the end, and we'll see all the finishes over the next 3 to 4 weeks on there. And as I said, really excited. This is we've had some major overhauls over my tenure as supervisor. We've redone all of our pools. We've redone Lake Nanuet's, brand new bathhouse. We redid German's pool complex. We redid the bathhouse and fixed the pool over at Congers Lake. We did obviously Zucker, street school at Zucker. We did a massive
Mhm.
overhaul of the building there, and then we've added several new parks, West Nyack playground, redoing a whole bunch of our playgrounds, and so we've kind of gone through a lot of our parks department. It's been a significant investment, and it's good for our kids, and it's good for property values, and just delighted that this project will be coming to a conclusion. And I can't wait to be out there and see all the sports leagues and the kids using these fields. It will extend these seasons well into the winter,
Mhm.
it will enable games to go on. It rains. Bad news for parents is, you don't want to be sitting out there, on a cold, blustery, rainy day. Well, you're going to be sitting out there on a cold, blustery, rainy day because the game's not going to be called because of the fields. The fields are going to be eminently playable.
It's
And
wrong
that's
for
the
me to
point.
envision that right now, but
Yeah, yeah,
it's
absolutely,
what it is, right? You got kids, that's what happens. So
absolutely.
kudos to them. One of my closest friends just had a kid, I sent him this cartoon that basically says, the first panel is what you think it's like when you have kids. And he's watching the kids in the background and they're like, causing a mess. He goes, I haven't slept in 3 weeks. And then the next panel is what it's actually like. And I won't say it out here, but much more of a mess in the background.
Uh-huh.
And the guy's going out of his mind. He's like, I haven't slept in 3 years.
Yeah, it's true. True.
So, cool. And then the ribbon cutting for the Street Community Center, the fitness equipment, that's going to be on this Wednesday, July 30th, at 11 a.m. if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Yeah, and we're excited about that because we're doing it at Street School, but literally we updated the equipment in all of our community centers. So it's great. We've got wonderful new exercise equipment. It's been upgraded. Get your Parks and Recreation pass and be able to come on in. That's a fraction. It's a pittance to pay for it, and you have an opportunity to be able to work out. In all of our community centers, and it's great new equipment in all of our community centers.
Big plus. I went back into the gym after a long hiatus. I feel better. I feel exhausted, but I feel better. I'm going back to the gym, so being able to use that fitness equipment. Town of Clarkstown Supervisor George Holman, thank you very much for being once again on AM Rockland. Look forward to talking with you next time.
Thanks, Tom. Really appreciate it. Have a great day.